From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 9 o'clock news.
Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Russ Riesinger. Montana's next governor held his first news conference since being elected today. MTN's Jonathan Ambarian reports on what Greg Gianforte had to say about COVID-19 and the transition to a new administration.
It's been 1 month since Congressman Greg Gianforte became Montana's governor-elect, and it's 1 month until his inauguration. On Friday, the Bozeman Republican said he's encouraged with how the transition has gone so far.
We're building a great team, have rolled up our sleeves, and are already working for Montanans.
Gianforte made clear COVID-19 will remain a major focus as his administration takes over.
We have to recognize we're in the midst of a public health crisis. The trends right now are alarming, and it's clear we need to get a better handle on this virus.
Gianforte said he will wait for recommendations from his COVID-19 task force before announcing his plans on state action. But he again emphasized his priority will be protecting people in vulnerable populations, but reopening Montana's economy. He said he's optimistic about vaccines, but that people should be aware they won't be widely available for some time.
In the meantime, I encourage Montanans to take care of their loved ones and neighbors and to protect their health and well-being. I trust Montanans to do what's right. I choose to wear a mask, and I encourage others to do the same.
Gianforte said he's had hundreds of Montanans express interest in joining his administration. He plans to name cabinet members and roll out policies in the coming weeks. He also said he's been in contact with many lawmakers of both parties.
My message was clear. I look forward to working together for the benefit of all Montanans. Across the board, there is an enthusiasm to produce better outcomes.
The Montana Legislature's Rules Committees will meet next week for discussions on possible options for how the upcoming legislative session will be run. Gianforte says it will be up to lawmakers to make that decision, but he said he believes they can balance doing their work and keeping people safe. In Helena, Jonathan Ambarian, MTN News.
Now, Gianforte will still be representing Montana in the U.S. House for another month. He said today he expects a COVID relief package will reach the House floor before the end of the session, but he doesn't know what it will include. Well, the battle for control of the U.S. Senate is heating up. Today, Vice President Pence and former President Obama both held rallies for their respective candidates in Georgia's 2 Senate runoff elections. This as President-elect Joe Biden keeps his focus on the economy. Skylar Henry reports from the White House.
President-elect Joe Biden is calling the latest jobs report evidence of the worst economic and jobs crisis in modern U.S. history.
Millions of people have lost their jobs or had their hours slashed.
He called on Congress to pass an emergency spending bill as soon as possible.
If we act now, we can begin to regain momentum and start to build back a better future.
Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi have resumed negotiations for economic relief.
We have to do it in a way that recognizes people need food on the table. They need to get their rent paid. They need money in their pockets. They need their unemployment insurance.
Economists worry the recent surge in COVID-19 cases, hospitalizations, and deaths will make December's jobs report even worse. President-elect Joe Biden has announced he's asked Dr. Anthony Fauci to be his chief medical advisor and remain on the coronavirus task force. With control of the Senate in the balance, Vice President Mike Pence rallied with Republicans in Savannah, Georgia, urging them to get out the vote for Senators David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler in next month's runoff election.
The Senate really matters.
At the same time, President Obama held a virtual rally with Democratic contenders John Ossoff and Reverend Raphael Warnock. President Trump plans to headline another rally in Valdosta, Georgia tomorrow night. And Georgia's governor is calling on the Secretary of State's office to conduct a signature audit of ballots following allegations of election fraud. Results from the state's second recount found President-elect Biden had 900 fewer votes than the first recount, but that he still beat President Trump by about 12,000 votes. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Wilmington, Delaware.
Well, Mr. Biden told CNN today he'll call on all Americans to wear masks during his first 100 days in office. Well, COVID cases keep climbing here in Montana with more than 1,000 new positives reported today, as well as another 6 deaths. Now, MTN reporting 762 total COVID-related deaths across the state tonight. There are just under 16,000 active cases, nearly 67 8,000 total cases and more than 51,000 Montanans have recovered from the virus. Tonight we're learning more about how the state of Montana plans to disperse its allotted shipment of the first round of the COVID-19 vaccine. Governor Steve Bullock announced this week Montana will get 97,000 doses of the Pfizer vaccine, but are health agencies ready to take it? Here's Q2's Andrea Lutz with more.
As Montana waits for the first round of COVID-19 vaccinations to come, it's the state health department that's currently busy figuring out shipping, storage, and distribution.
Because we're all waiting for that return back to normal. And we're going to end the pandemic when we have the vaccine.
Montana's Republican Senator Steve Daines helped to secure $10 billion for Operation Warp Speed.
We'll be ready when this vaccine's going to be ready. And we're hoping and praying that'll be probably the back half of December here for Montana.
And where to get it? That's where the Department of Health and Human Services comes in. Currently, 90 providers have registered with the agency to disperse the vaccine, going to healthcare workers first and the elderly. The agency says providers must apply, and they include hospitals, health departments, and pharmacies. And the Pfizer vaccine needs special storage, a freezer. St. Vincent Healthcare says they've got one, saying they purchased an ultra-cold freezer that reaches minus 80 degrees Celsius. They plan to administer the vaccine in accordance with federal and state guidelines and vaccinate as many nurses, doctors, and staff as possible.
And we're going to start by ensuring that our healthcare heroes, those frontline healthcare providers, get that vaccine first.
Daines says the vaccine is safe, and he would know he's already been given it during Pfizer's vaccine trial.
I would describe it as if you're getting a flu shot. And I want to encourage as many Montanans as possible to get that vaccine.
And with Montana's deadliest month for COVID deaths yet in November, health officials and state leaders are stressing the importance of following guidelines so that December won't be worse. In Billings, Andrea Lutz, MTN News.
Thanks, Andrea. Andrea also reached out to Billings Clinic to see what their COVID-19 vaccine capabilities are. Officials there say they already have a cold storage freezer to house the Pfizer vaccine. Schools across Montana are still juggling a combination of remote and in-person learning. The pandemic has left a lot of parents unsure about the quality of education their students are receiving. And tonight we're learning that a federal assessment of education nationwide has been postponed here in Montana. The National Assessment of Educational Progress won't take place until 2022. Every 2 years, the test measures reading, math, and writing proficiency in elementary and middle school students. But this year, the National Centers for Education Statistics says the assessment cannot be safely given. Montana Superintendent of Public Instruction, Elsie Arnson, says if you're worried about your child falling behind in school, you should keep in touch with their teachers.
Yes, it's a challenge that the test has been postponed. It'll begin again in 2022. The triangle that I have between school, family, and student right now, we need to maintain. And we need to maintain that it's all about learning. It's not about a test. It should never be about a test.
You can watch our full 20-minute interview with Superintendent Arnson online on KTVQ.com. This evening we have an update on the ongoing MSUB concerns over a water leak that has been affecting multiple campus buildings. That water is turned back on now in McMullen Hall, the PE building, Sissel Hall, Rimrock Hall, and the Student Union building. It is now safe for hand washing, showering, and restroom use. However, the water's not safe to drink yet. Water levels first have to be tested. Employees who work in these buildings are able to return to their normal schedule starting Monday, December 7th. Possible high school stadium proposal has emerged after Yellowstone County commissioners decided this week that it would not be included in a Metro Park master plan. Piece of land next to Amen Park and across from Newman Elementary School could be the site of a sports complex. That complex would include a stadium for football, soccer, and track and field, also basketball courts. It's in the beginning stages, and the South Billings-Ermine Renewal Association will look at proposing it to the Billings City Council. Now, this could be a joint project with the city and School District 2. Superintendent Greg Upham says collaboration allows a sharing of costs.
Why pay for one project here and one project here if we could combine that, save the taxpayers money on the end.
What we are considering is the viability of putting the stadium on the 10 acres plus the other city-owned property that is adjacent to Amen Park as a way to enhance the sports venues in the city and as an attraction for economic development in the city.
Mike Mayotte says the South Billings Urban Renewal Association Board will talk about the proposal at its next meeting in January. New place for artists and those in the crafting business to show and sell their stuff in Billings, which has been tough to do as of late with shows being canceled. Crackajack is a small storefront downtown next to Elle's Bouterie on First Avenue. The building is a place for artisans, designers, painters, and other crafters to create and market their work. People can purchase vendor space, small or large, all from Montana artists. Crackajack will also feature a classroom in the rear of the room that people can rent for classes and activities. The inventory will be regularly circulated with new vendors and new art.
Crackajack really just means it's a person who is skilled at a particular task. So the whole point of the store is to give anybody kind of a space to just kind of do their thing, create their craft. COVID really kind of ruined us for a little bit, canceled shows everywhere. And with this, it's so permanent that we're not going to go anywhere.
They'll be holding their grand opening tomorrow, and to learn more about how this group is making it work in these uncertain times, be sure to watch the Q2 Weekend News. All right, ahead on the MTN 9 o'clock news here on the CW. Montana's legislature is set to meet for the first time in 2 years. We're getting a look at what some of the top priorities will be for Republicans who are in solid control now. And we're headed into what looks like an unseasonably warm couple of days. Chris DeRose is in next with a look at your forecast.